Hello, this is Dr. Kamani, licensed clinical psychologist. Thank you for tuning in today. You are here for Black women, what to do if people tell you or when people tell you to stay at a toxic job. So, I've been talking about toxic jobs for a while now, and we're going to talk about when you get that interference, right? When other people are saying to you, no, you should stay at that toxic job. So, I'm going to talk a little bit about that. I know I've experienced that. I know that the clients that I've worked with in therapy, coaching, friends, family, people talk about it, okay? And I've even heard this in the comment section. I've read about it in the comment sections of some of my videos where some Black women come on and they say, well, what about this? Or, the worst case scenario is that you're homeless, right? Yes, that's a terrible situation. I'm not discounting that. And I want to be very clear that when I'm talking, when have guests on, we're talking about and we're talking to Black women who are ready to leave toxic jobs. No one is trying to convince you to leave a toxic job because you have to decide for yourself if it's time to go. Okay. So nobody's trying to convince you. So I want to be very clear about that. Okay. My job is to share information with you, share resources with you, and just to talk about areas of healing in relation to a toxic job. Okay. So I want to be very clear about that. So, in terms of what to do about when people tell you to stay at a toxic job, I know that I talked about this when Stephanie Perry interviewed me in the video about Black women and toxic jobs and Black women leaving toxic jobs. So, I want to speak a little more about this because you may be experiencing this where you have told people in your circle, you've told family how much you really don't like your job, and they're saying to you, girl, don't leave that job. Girl, that's a good job. You got good benefits. What you gonna do? You're gonna end up homeless, right? So what I want to just call out, what you're experiencing is they are projecting their fears on you. So they really may have concerns, right? They want you to be well, but they're projecting all the fears they have in terms of what might happen to you, as well as fears they may have about their own situation. So we have to recognize when people are projecting their fears onto us and not to take that in, not to own it, not to make that as the deciding point in terms of what you're going to do. Okay. As my aunt told me, nobody's living your life except for you. Okay. So if people are trying to tell you to stay at a toxic job, I want you to really think about if they are projecting their fears onto you. Are they trying to tell you about the worst case scenario because they are fearful? And think about it. This is a choice that they're making for their life in terms of staying at a toxic job. Just because they're making that decision does not mean that you need to make or be that decision too. Okay. So, what I want to say to you also is that you can start telling if you're starting to internalize what people are projecting upon you because you start going with, like, if they're bringing up fears, you're going with the fears and you're thinking about worst case scenarios too. Okay. So, again, when I talk about leaving a toxic job, I cannot stress enough that I talk about I don't expect anyone to leave a toxic job immediately unless you are in physical or emotional harm in any kind of way. Okay. What I talk to Black women about and what I help Black women with is how do you develop an exit plan so you can leave? And once you leave, how do you jumpstart your healing? Okay. So, one of the ways to jumpstart healing, I've talked about therapy, right? I'm a psychologist. So, yes, absolute therapy. And I also talk about a masterclass that I have with S. Emery Archer. So she's the anti-HR lady, if you're not familiar with her. And so our masterclass is going to be first end of this month. And the class is called Save Yourself, Channel Your Inner Harriet so that you can leave that toxic hostile job with your sanity and your coins. Okay. So again, I'm just here to share resources with you. And I want you to be able to hear from me as someone who's gone through a toxic work environment. I'm still healing, that healing is possible. And I want to be able to help more Black women leave toxic jobs. Okay. So that is my role. Okay. So again, look at if people are projecting their fears onto you and think about what is the life that you want for yourself? Okay. So, as I mentioned before, only you are living your life. So, you can't think about what other people want for you. Okay. And I also want you to be mindful of when people make um, kind of what people say, like side eye comments, or they're insinuating things. So, they might be talking to you and you tell them, I don't like this job, or I hate this job, or I dread going to this job. And they may say things to you like, well, you might have some lofty goals about leaving, but that's not realistic, okay? Or, you better get that out of your mind. So they might start saying things, or they might say something like, it must be nice to think about leaving your job. And most of us are not thinking about that. So like those like kind of jab comments that makes you question your decision. Okay. So if you are in situations like that, pay attention to those kind of comments that makes you feel like, that was kind of right. I felt some kind of way about that comment. So if you experience these comments, again, pay attention to them, but you don't have to run with it. Okay, just pay attention to it. Then the other thing I wanted to say was, sometimes people might be saying things not only because of their fears, but because they can't envision anything outside of being in that job. They can't envision anything else outside of what they are used to doing, and they can't envision that. So you're sharing with them about dreams, or beliefs, or things that you're going to do, but they can't envision that. Okay, so that's a choice that they're making for their life in terms of choosing to stay at a job. So they may like the job, they may not like the job. Okay, whatever, but that's the choice they're making. But we have to say, you know what? If you're making a choice for yourself, that's not a choice that I'm making for myself. And you have a right to stay with your choice, right? But I have also the right to make my choice. So I want to give you some tips just in terms of, if you are in a situation in which other people are telling you to stay at a toxic job. Okay, so again, I talked about this at length in the video that I did with Stephanie Perry, in which she was asking me about my experiences in a toxic job and leaving a toxic job. And I told her that my mother was not too happy when I told her that I wanted to leave that toxic job. I told her how unhappy I was. I told my mother how unhappy I was. But, my mother's from a different era, and your family, your parents, those people you talk to may be from a different era too, in which they were told, you go to school, you go to college, you get a degree, you get a good job, right? You stay at that job until you retire, and then you get good benefits after you retire, right? So they came from a different generation. And so for them, it was hard for them to believe or see anything different. Okay. So I know that my mother was saying what she said to me out of concern for me, and she wants the best for me. But I also recognize that she was projecting a lot of her fears onto me. So what I did was I just let her talk. Okay. And I would just advise you to do this too. If you're in a situation where somebody's projecting their fears onto you, listen to them talk. Okay. But also keep a mental note in terms of those people that you can share what you want to do, and those people that maybe need to wait to hear in terms of what you decide to do. You are an adult, you're a grown up, you can decide what you want to do for yourself. Okay. So, again, limit or choose who you want to share information with. You have every right to do that. Okay. And then I really invite you to really think about, again, what type of life do you want for yourself? You are the only one who knows that. What is the type of life that you want for yourself? And what do you need to do to get there? Okay. So as people start projecting stuff, I want you to say, nope, I'm not receiving that, right? I'm not taking that in. I remember that when I was in graduate school, and while I was in graduate school, I was working part time at a residential treatment center. And I remember one of the supervisors at the residential treatment center asked me, oh, well, why are you not working here full time? And I said, oh, I'm in graduate school. And she asked, well, what are you going for? And I said, I'm getting a PhD in clinical psychology. Now, this woman said to me, that this is her response to me when I said I was going to graduate school. She said, "That's a very lofty goal, right?" So, in terms of she's projecting her perceptions of, I guess, what she thought Black women were capable of. I don't know, right? But I didn't receive that. So, what I'm saying to you is that people might project things onto you, but you don't have to internalize it, and you can choose who you want to share information with. Okay. And I also want to share with you as you think about the type of life that you want for yourself, I want you to do something that we talked about in the video, Black Women in Toxic Jobs, taking our power back. And again, we're going to have a part two to that on this Sunday. And so part of what we talked about was reconnecting to that little girl inside of us because we are so busy doing things in toxic jobs, juggling all these different things. Sometimes we become disconnected from ourselves. Okay. So we talked about how to remember yourself in that video. And we also talked about how to reconnect to your little girl inside, that little girl inside who loved to do certain things, that little girl who had joy within her. And sometimes when you're in a toxic job, the abuse and trauma that you experience can really rob you of your joy, right? So I call these situations sometimes joy robbers or even soul crushers. So sometimes we are in soul crushing jobs, okay? So if you are having this experience, okay, what I invite you to do is something I've done for myself. Okay. So I have said to myself, I want to reconnect to my little girl and I want to pay attention to what is the inner little girl within me saying. Would the inner little girl in me say, stay at that toxic job, stick it out, right? And the other video I did about, I'm just going to hang on until, I'm just going to try to stick it out until, okay. So would that little girl in you say the same thing? I don't think she would. Okay. So I just want to share with you on my desk that I keep a picture of myself. You probably can't see it. It's a baby picture of myself. Okay. And I keep a picture up there of myself to remind myself that I am connected to the little girl in me and I am honoring her and I'm not doing anything to put her in harm's way. Okay. So when I was at the toxic job, experienced a lot of harm. And when I walked away, when I resigned, I said, no more, no more. Okay. So as we said in the previous videos, I know that I've done a short reel on it was, you're not going to break my soul. I'm not going to allow you to break my soul. Okay. So again, I just want to come on very briefly and just talk about because it's a real thing when people try to discourage you from leaving a job. And to the point again, sometimes these people might not even, you might not even know these people, okay? So these may be people in your circle, but they may be people outside of your circle who are, what we say are naysayers, who, you share with them about what your plans are or that you're going to leave. And there might even be some level of jealousy that how was it that you can dare to think of leaving and I'm still stuck at this toxic job. Okay. So think about, what decisions are you making for yourself and how do you learn to kind of tune out or phase out or kind of let that interference from other people don't internalize that, okay? Because again, you're living your life, okay? So Kia, thank you for tuning in. I think some people, I'm just going to read the comments. I think some people encourage others to stay in toxic jobs due to them being afraid the person will fail, be far worse than if they leave. Yes, so, yes, there is that realistic fear for that person, right? And that's why I talk a lot about when we think about leaving a toxic job, my hope is that you take time to exit plan and you have things in place to help you transition to something better. Okay. So, exit planning is a process. Okay. So, the thought is that you wouldn't just up and leave a job and therefore do worse. The thought is that you would leave that job to something better. So either another job or doing your own business and or do both, okay? But what I want to say also is that when you think about this, number one, I want people to have an open mind that whatever job they have, they can take those skills somewhere else, okay? Because many times we think this is the only place where we can do a certain thing, and that's not true. you can take those skills somewhere else, okay? Somewhere else where they appreciate you. The other thing is when we stay at these toxic jobs and fear keeps us there, we become complicit, okay? And we become complacent, right? And it's hard for us to move on. And a lot of times that contributes to a sense of anger at ourselves that we are still in these situations, that we're allowing people to treat us this way, even if we know we're there for a paycheck. Okay. So Stephanie Perry talked about this too in her video about leave that hostile job, Black women. Okay. So, in terms of really remembering that jobs are a means to an end, we hopefully can start focusing on prioritizing ourselves over our jobs and not using our jobs as a way to define who we are. They do not define who we are. Okay. Even though society tries to teach us that. Okay. Thank you, Terrence. Said this is good. I look at it sometimes as a person has to choose their emotional and mental well-being over a toxic environment. Yes, true. Maybe creating a solid exit plan, saving, creating a side income will decrease the fear. Yes, exactly. And that's something that I've decided that I'm going to do as well, is that I'm going to start having more master classes, right? So I really want to give Black women the tools, the strategies, the resources about how do you leave. So I've been talking a lot about, the healing journey. I've talked a lot about the experience of different Black women in their healing journeys, what our experiences are in the workplace. And I want to be able to do this because I want you to see it's not just me talking about this, that a lot of Black women have gone through this and are still going through it, okay? And because there's so many of us going through it, that motivates me to keep doing this. It motivates me to help other Black women leave these toxic jobs because they can really harm us. So, again, when I think about these experiences, again, my role is to be here to support you. Even if I don't know you directly, I want to support you from afar by sharing resources with you and let you know that you do have options. Okay, so I want to read another comment in the chat. Thank you. I'm job searching online right now. My mental health means more than staying. I've stayed too long. Thanks again. I'm so happy to hear that you have recognized that and that you have prioritized your mental health. Okay. Because when you think about if you're at a toxic job for the so called benefits, if you're being harmed by the toxic job, there's no benefit in that. You're losing all the way around. Okay. So, in terms of resources, as I'm winding down, I just want to recap the resources that I talked to you about and some tips. Okay. So, if you have people around you who are telling you stay at that toxic job, okay, number one, you don't need to tell them your plans anymore. Okay, so you know what their position is. Okay, they want you to stay in the toxicity for whatever reason. Okay, it may not be malicious. It may be like we said. They may have concerns for you and your well-being. They don't want anything bad to happen to you. However, you know the life that you are living, and you know you want something different. Okay, so you could choose to tell them stuff or not. I also would suggest that you find a community of people who support you in your efforts, who support you in your exit planning, who can provide you with information. So, people who are uplifting you, okay? So, find your circle, find your people who can support you, okay? And then when you think about leaving, start developing your exit plan, okay? So, I've said this and I cannot stress this enough. If you are able to take a leave of absence at your toxic job, please do so. When you take the leave of absence, you're able to get some distance from the toxic job so you can have a greater sense of understanding of where you're trying to go, right? So when you are constantly in the beat down at the job, it's hard to have that clarity because you're just trying to protect yourself. You're just trying to make it each day. You're just trying to deal with the masking that you're dealing with every day. You're just trying to deal with the dread of going to work every day. And more than likely, you're doing a good job, but you still have so much emotional toll just trying to be there. Okay. So I want you to think about all these different things. I want you to think about taking a leave of absence. I want you to think about really committing to resources. So the resources that I've talked about before, therapy, I have a video that I put in the description section about how to find a Black therapist. Okay. I've also talked about how to find free therapy in terms of resources. So the Boris Lawrence Henson Foundation, the Loveland Foundation, those are resources for you as well. Coaches, if you want a Black woman coach, S. Emery Archer has the Black Women's Coaches Directory. That will also be in the description section. And as I mentioned before, the masterclass, which is coming up in a few weeks. So again, that masterclass is a collaboration between S. Emery Archer and I, the anti-HR lady. And that masterclass again is called Save Yourself, Channel Your Inner Harriet, so that you can leave that toxic, hostile job with your sanity and your coins. Again, I'm focusing on the psychological part. So dealing with that psychological blockage and all that stuff in terms of dealing with that trauma, how do you release that trauma so you have greater clarity and so you don't end up in another toxic job. Okay, we don't want that to happen to you. And then Anne Marie is going to talk a little bit more in terms of distinguishing between a hostile and a toxic job, and also steps forward so that you can get your coins and you don't leave any money on the table. Okay, so and something very interesting, and I'm going to go to this the chat again. But something that's very disturbing that I've been thinking about more and more is the Black women who are reaching out to me and talking about their experiences, and not only the dread of the job, there's also another layer that I don't really talk about that much, or I just started talking about, is the fear that the employer will find out you're trying to leave, and the fear keeps you from staying too. Okay. So again, it reminds me so much of that plantation mentality where we are being beat down and we're being exploited many times at toxic jobs, and there's a fear of leaving. So there's a fear of running away. There's a fear of, can I get a pass? Can a master give me a pass? Or all this crazy stuff. Okay. And I just want us to live a life where we are truly free. Okay. So Anne Marie and I, really are trying to channel our honors to Harriet Tubman and helping more Black women leave these toxic hostile jobs. And the hope is that we can help you channel your Harriet and you start moving out too. Okay. So I see another comment. I had some inside help and advised me to start. Wait, someone else said, good luck with your job searching. It's hard, but stay encouraged. Thank you for offering that support to that sister. I had some inside help and advised me to start looking for another job. And I had some former employees who actually left and helped me revamp my resume and started connecting with my recruiter network that I'm back on the market. I was still looking for a job while I was on my PIP. So the uh, improvement plan, right? So Anne Marie talks about PIP a lot. And also the other women that I've interviewed talks about PIP as well in terms of human resources. So check out those videos on my channel. Got let go in July 2022. And in August, my former manager from a contract I did some years ago contacted me. So about 2 weeks after I got let go, I started my new job. Yes, right? So sometimes we have to make those steps, scary, okay? But you started networking, you started connecting with your community, which is so important. And when we think about, when we talk to people and people we trust and people who are looking out for the best for us, they will look out for you. Okay. Now, I do want to say that sometimes we have had some negative experiences with people, like we've tried to reach out to them and they have not been supportive of us. Or maybe there's other Black people that we've encountered, and you've heard me talk about all skin folk and kinfolk. Okay. Now, I do acknowledge that some people are like that, okay? But a lot of us are not like that. So I don't want us to have this negative perception that, nobody's going to help you. That's not true, okay? But I also want to be realistic that some people can help you and some people will not, okay? Some people will see you're down and they're trying to step on your neck, okay? So be mindful of those people. So in closing, again, I want to just say to you that you deserve better. I am not here to convince you you deserve better. I want you to know that you deserve better. And I want you to be able to access resources that are available to you. And if people are telling you to stay in a toxic job, distance yourself in terms of what you share with them. Okay. Please do not allow other people's fears or whatever that might be, do not allow those decisions that they're making to influence your decisions. Okay. You have access to choice, you have options, you have resources. Okay. Therapy, coaching, masterclass. Okay. So I will put information about the masterclass on the screen. Okay. And you will also be able to see the masterclass link in the description section of this video. Okay. So, in closing, if you have not already subscribed to my channel, please do so. Lifting As We Climb Consulting, Wellness Services. Okay. So, I focus on how to support Black women in their healing and leaving toxic jobs. As I stress, I do not believe, or I think it's very hard to heal in the same environment that's harming you. So the masterclass will provide an opportunity to kind of jumpstart your healing. Okay. So as I've mentioned before, I left that toxic job same time that person left, right? July 2022, right? So I left and I'm still healing. I'm much better, but I'm still healing. Okay. So healing is a journey. I'm inviting you again. Once this video is over, click the link in the description section or even right here on the screen and reserve your spot for the masterclass. Also, share this video with other Black women. We want to help other Black women channel their inner Harriet too. Okay. So, again, I wanted to just come on and just give you some tips. Okay. That's my role, is to give you some tips and help you out. Okay. Help you, lead you out as a conductor. Okay. I want to help support you. And remember, you deserve better. And I'm here to help you get better so you can get to where you want to go. Okay. Okay. So, thank you everyone for tuning in, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.